There comes a moment in life when everything quietly shifts. We spend years, sometimes decades, raising our children. From the sleepless nights when they were infants, to the tough conversations as teenagers, to the quiet pride as they step into adulthood. We were their teachers, their protectors, their safe place. But one day, we start to feel something we never expected. A subtle distance, a change in tone, a lack of warmth in the way they speak, or even worse, silence. And then it hits us. They don't look at us the same way anymore. We begin to feel like a burden, like our thoughts are outdated, like our presence is tolerated, not appreciated. And for many parents, that shift cuts deep. It can bring a flood of emotions, hurt, sadness, even anger. Some parents try to speak up, only to be met with eye rolls or defensiveness. Others stay silent, slowly retreating, thinking maybe that's just how things go. But here's the truth. Being angry won't fix it. It won't bring the respect back. It won't open their hearts again. In fact, it might just push them further away. So what do? Do we just accept that our time of influence has passed? That the people we love the most now see us as old-fashioned or too much? Absolutely not. Because respect isn't about age, it's about presence. It's about how we show up in their lives now, not just what we did for them in the past. And I want to promise you something. There is a way forward. In this video, I'm going to share 6 powerful actions you can take, starting today, to regain your children's respect. No shouting, no guilt-tripping, no drama. Just calm, clear, effective steps. These actions aren't magic, but they work because they're based on wisdom, self-respect, and quiet strength. And if you're willing to try, they can change everything. So stay with me. You're not alone, and it's not too late. Let's begin. The first step to regaining your child's respect might surprise you because it starts with something we often do without even realizing. It's this. Stop chasing their approval. You see, many parents, especially those with kind hearts, fall into a quiet pattern. They say yes when they really want to say no. They downplay their own needs, hold back their opinions, or walk on eggshells, all in the hope that their children will like them, or at least not get upset. It doesn't come from weakness, it comes from love, from wanting peace in the family, from being afraid that setting boundaries will push your child further away. But here's the hard truth. When we constantly put their comfort above our own dignity, we slowly lose their respect. Because people, even our kids, respect those who respect themselves first. I once met a woman named Margaret. She's a thoughtful, gentle mother who always tried to keep the peace. Over time, though, her adult children began to ignore her opinions. They'd make decisions without asking. They'd speak over her in family gatherings. And worst of all, they treated her presence like an obligation, not a gift. What happened? She thought being agreeable would bring them closer, but all it did was send a silent message. My voice doesn't matter. And that message became the reality. The turning point came when Margaret learned to say, kindly but firmly, "No, I can't do that." Or, "I hear your view, but this is what I believe." She didn't become cold or demanding. She simply stood up for her own values. And over time, something changed. Her children started listening. They began to ask her thoughts. They treated her not as someone who would always give in, but as someone who stood strong in who she was. So I ask you, when was the last time you honored your own boundary, your own time, your own beliefs? Respect starts with you. In the next segment, I'll share the second action, one that builds even deeper trust and connection without ever raising your voice. Stay with me. You're on the right path. Let's talk about something we've all done at some point. Arguing with our kids, hoping they'll finally understand. You say something you believe in, they roll their eyes. You try to explain your perspective, they push back. Before you know it, voices are raised, emotions are high, and nothing really changes. In fact, it often gets worse. Here's the hard truth. The more you argue, the less they listen. Not because you're wrong, but because arguing puts both sides in defense mode. And when someone's defending themselves, they're not really hearing you. They're just waiting for their turn to speak. I remember a man named Frank. He's a strong, thoughtful father who deeply loved his adult son. But every time they talked about something important, values, choices, life, it turned into a debate. Frank would try to reason with him, sometimes even raise his voice, thinking it would show how serious he was. But his son just shut down. One day, Frank made a bold decision. He stopped trying to win the argument and started winning his son's attention instead. How? He led by example. He began showing, not telling, what it looked like to live with dignity, wisdom, and quiet strength. When he disagreed, he didn't lash out or give a lecture. He simply lived his truth calmly and confidently. He didn't shrink. He didn't beg for respect. He embodied it. Over time, his son noticed. The resistance faded. Their conversations became less like battles and more like real dialogue. Because nothing commands more respect than someone who stays composed in the storm. Someone who doesn't fight to be heard, but whose presence speaks louder than their words. So ask yourself, what kind of example am I setting right now? Would I want my child to copy the way I handle disagreement? Am I reacting or am I leading? If you want your children to respect your voice, show them how a respectful voice sounds, even when no one's listening yet. In the next part, I'll share a third powerful shift, one that strengthens your role in the family without saying a single critical word. Let's keep going. You're not just rebuilding connection, you're becoming someone they quietly look up to. Here's something many parents don't like to admit out loud. That deep longing to feel needed again. We miss the little arms that used to wrap around our waist, the late-night phone calls, the simple, "Hi, Mom," or "Love you, Dad," that used to light up our whole day. So when those moments fade, when the calls come less often, when we're not the first person they turn to anymore, it's natural to feel a void. And sometimes, without meaning to, we start filling that void with expectations. We wait for their calls like lifelines. We feel hurt when they don't check in. We might text or call more than we really should, not out of control, but out of a quiet ache to feel important in their world. But here's the hard truth. When our emotional well-being depends on our children, they start to feel that pressure, and it pushes them away. They may not say it, but inside, they begin to feel responsible for our happiness. And that weight, it makes love feel heavy. I once spoke with a woman named Helen. After her youngest left for college, she called her kids nearly every day. She'd say things like, "I just wanted to hear your voice," or "I feel so alone lately." At first, they answered, but slowly, the responses became shorter, the calls less frequent. Helen felt crushed. Then one day, she decided to do something radical. She stopped chasing. She signed up for a watercolor class, started walking with a neighbor. She even learned to bake bread from scratch, something she always wanted to try. And the strangest thing happened. Her phone started ringing. Her daughter called just to chat. Her son asked if she wanted to grab lunch. You see, when we create a life that's emotionally full, we stop pulling on our kids and start drawing them back in. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about showing that your happiness is not a burden for them to carry. It's something you own and nurture yourself. So let me ask you gently, what's something you used to love that you've put aside for too long? What would it look like to live your own joy again, not in spite of your children, but alongside them? Because when you're emotionally whole, you become someone they want to come home to, not someone they feel guilty avoiding. In the next part, we'll talk about something equally powerful, how reclaiming your influence starts with reclaiming your curiosity. Stay with me. Let's be honest. One of the hardest lessons in parenting adult children is realizing this. People treat us the way we allow them to. And yes, that includes our own kids. It's painful to say, but sometimes the reason our children stop respecting us isn't because they're bad people, but because somewhere along the way, we stopped standing up for ourselves. We let the sarcasm slide. We stayed quiet when they spoke harshly. We said, "It's fine," when it really wasn't. Not because we're weak, but because we love them. We didn't want to rock the boat, but here's the truth. When there are no boundaries, there is no respect. I remember a man named Robert, a gentle, patient father who adored his 2 grown sons. But as the years passed, they began showing up late for family dinners, canceling plans at the last minute, interrupting him in conversations like his words didn't matter. He didn't say anything at first. He just swallowed the disappointment and told himself, "That's just how kids are these days." Until one Thanksgiving, when his son showed up 2 hours late without a call, Robert did something different. He didn't yell. He didn't guilt them. He calmly looked at them and said, "I love you both deeply, but when you disrespect my time like this, it hurts. From now on, if you can't make it on time, I won't hold dinner. My time matters too." There was silence, shock, but slowly, respect returned. Because Robert had finally done what many of us struggle to do. He drew a line, and most importantly, he held it. Boundaries aren't about control. They're about clarity. They're not punishments. They're acts of self-respect. So let me ask you, is there a behavior you've been tolerating that's quietly eating away at your dignity? What would happen if, with love, not anger, you simply said, "This doesn't work for me anymore"? Your children may not change overnight, but when you model self-respect, you teach them how to treat you, not with fear, but with honor. In the next part, we'll explore an unexpected way to deepen connection, not by speaking more, but by listening differently. Stick with me. Your role as a parent isn't over. It's just evolving, and you're growing into it beautifully. Let me ask you something that might feel uncomfortable. Have you ever given so much to your children? Your time, your money, your help, and deep down, felt invisible? You cook the meals, lend the money, babysit the grandkids at a moment's notice. You say yes, even when you're tired, and you don't ask for anything in return. Why? Because you love them, because you were raised to give, because being a parent means being there, no matter what. But here's the reality many parents are facing today. When we constantly give without expecting appreciation, it teaches our children that our support is endless and expected, not valued, not recognized, just assumed. Take George, for example. A generous father, always first to help. When his daughter needed a loan, he gave it. When his son needed a car, he co-signed. No questions asked, but slowly something shifted. They stopped saying thank you, stopped asking, and started expecting. One day, after driving across town at 10 p.m. to bring cold medicine to his son, George realized no one had even asked how he was doing. That night, he made a quiet decision. No more automatic yeses. He didn't shut the door, he just started saying, "I'm happy to help, but only when I feel respected." Guess what happened? At first, confusion, maybe even pushback, but soon, the tone changed. The calls came with a please. The visits came with a thank you. Because George finally linked his kindness to respect, not obligation, and that changed everything. Giving is beautiful, but when it's one-sided, it becomes draining, and over time, it chips away at our dignity. So ask yourself honestly, have I been giving out of love or out of habit? And am I allowing my children to take without teaching them to value? You deserve to be appreciated, not just for what you do, but for who you are. In the next part, we'll uncover one final action, a quiet but powerful shift that may surprise you. Stay with me. Let's talk about something that rarely gets said out loud. What happens when your children become the center of your world, and then slowly step away from it? It starts so naturally. We raise them, love them, sacrifice. Then they grow and our identity. Often it stays wrapped around them. You wait for their call. You rearrange your week around their needs. You tell yourself, this is just what good parents do. But what happens when they don't call? When the door stays closed longer than you expected? You begin to feel invisible. And the sad truth is, the more we orbit around our children's lives, the more they feel the pressure and pull away. Let me share Elinar's story. She lost her husband unexpectedly at 61. Her whole world shifted. In her grief, she turned fully to her children, texting daily, offering to help constantly, quietly hoping they'd fill the void. But they didn't. They grew more distant, less available, and she began to feel rejected. Until one day, Eleanor asked herself, what if I started living for me again? She joined a walking group, signed up for watercolor classes, volunteered twice a week at a local animal shelter, and slowly, she came back to life. And the most surprising thing, her children started calling more, not out of guilt, but respect, because now they saw their mother not just as someone who waited on the sidelines, but as someone vibrant, whole, and fulfilled. That shift, it changed everything. When we build a life outside of our children, we stop being emotionally dependent and start being emotionally magnetic. So I invite you to ask, what lights you up? What have you set aside for too long? Because you deserve a life that's rich in color, friendships, hobbies, passions, laughter, not just waiting. And when your children see that strength in you, they're more likely to honor it. This isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your next chapter. Let it be one where you choose yourself and gain back the respect you've always deserved. Realigns where offer our investor. So, here's the truth we often don't want to face. Respect from our children doesn't come from demanding it. It doesn't come from lecturing, pleading, or sacrificing ourselves until we're exhausted. It comes from how we live, from the quiet strength we carry, from the boundaries we set, from the way we carry ourselves with self-worth, even when the world doesn't notice right away. Let's quickly revisit the 6 shifts we've talked about, not just as tips, but as life-changing choices. Stop chasing their approval. When we constantly say yes to please, we lose ourselves, and they lose respect for us. Lead by example, not argument. The more we try to win debates, the more we lose connection. Respect is earned in silence, not noise. Detach emotionally in a healthy way. Don't make your children your emotional lifeline. When you find peace within yourself, they'll feel safer coming closer. Set and honor your boundaries. Your time, your energy, your values, they matter. When you enforce boundaries calmly, others adjust. Stop giving without appreciation. Generosity without gratitude leads to entitlement. It's okay to say, not this time. Rebuild your own life. Find joy outside of your kids. Discover passions, community, and purpose. A fulfilled parent is a respected one. These aren't just techniques. They're a return to yourself. Because the moment you begin to truly respect yourself, the world and your children will reflect that back to you. It won't happen overnight. Some days will feel lonely. Some shifts will feel unnatural at first. But slowly, the dynamic begins to change. They look at you not as someone who waits by the phone, but as someone with depth, direction, and dignity. And that is when respect returns. If this message spoke to you, even just a little, I want you to know something. You are not alone. There are millions of people navigating the same journey. That's why we created this space, Elderly Joy Life. A place to rediscover your voice, your joy, your worth at every age. So if you found value in this video, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing it with someone who might need a gentle reminder that their best years are not behind them. They're just beginning. Because the most powerful change always starts with you. And your story, it's far from over.